Welcome to EPG Pathshala. Dear students, today we would be learning about the regional plan, about what are the definitions of the regional plan, various nomenclatures related to the regional plan, then the jurisdictions and the acts pertaining to the regional plan, the components, the processes, the issues and challenges, and the various case studies. Now let us see. Plans are prepared and formulated at various levels as we were discussing. The regional plan, the master plan, the zonal plan, local area plan, and the layout plan. The states undertake the urban and regional planning under various variety of statutes such as the Town and Country Planning Act, the municipal laws, the Urban Metropolitan Planning Development Act, the Improvement Trust Act, the Industrial Development Act, Cantonment Board Act, Major Ports Act, etc. This table talks about this hierarchy of plans. So the first plan is the perspective plan. Now what is the purpose of this perspective plan? The purpose of this perspective plan is to develop the vision and provide a policy framework for urban and regional development, and they are further detailed, and the time span is for 20 to 30 years. Next we come to the regional plan. Now the regional plan identifies the region and regional resources for development within which settlement, the urban and the rural settlements, plans are prepared for them and regulated by the district planning committee, that is the DPC. Then we come to the development plan. It is to prepare a comprehensive development plan for urban areas and also the peri-urban areas under control of Development Authority or the Metropolitan Planning Committee, that is MPC. And the span is also again 20 to 30 years. Then we come to the local area plan, which is to detail the sub-city and the land use plan and integration with the urban infrastructure, mobility and services, and it spans from 5 years to 20 years. Now coming to the scale of the plans, these plans, what are the scale at which these plans are worked out? So we have the perspective plan at a scale of 1:250,000 to 1:1 lakh for larger regions, and 1:1 lakh to 1:50,000 for smaller regions. And regional plan, we have the district development plan is worked out as 1:50,000 to 1:25,000, and metropolitan regional plan is worked out at 1:25,000 to 1:10,000, and the development plan or the master plan is worked out at 1:10,000 to 1:8,000 as per the state provisions. Now the local area plan or the special purpose plans are worked out at 1:5,000 or 1:1,000 as per the requirement of the project. And if we can see this figure, which is talking of the links between from perspective plan to regional plan to master plan, and then how do we link up these various plans. So now coming to the regional plan, there have been many regional plans in our country. We had the first regional plan in our country was the National Capital Region plan, that is for Delhi in 1982, followed by the Mumbai Metropolitan Region plan, then the Bengaluru Metropolitan Region plan, the Kolkata Metropolitan Area plan, and the Chennai Metropolitan Area plan. Now coming to the definition of the regional plan, let me quote: a region is a contiguous geographical area which has a fair degree of uniformity in administration, economic linkages or natural environment. It is relatively a large area with hierarchy of settlements and varying landscape. And planning means the scientific, aesthetic and orderly disposition of land, resources, facilities and services with a view to securing the physical, economic and social efficiency, health and well-being of urban and rural communities. The urban and regional plans in all its forms and dimensions should focus on sustainability from financial, social, governance or managerial and environmental sustainability. Now coming to the need of the regional plan. Now our districts are urbanized. We have about India has about 640 districts, and the districts are at various levels of urbanization. And we see that 9% of districts are 100% urbanized. And secondly, we see that there are multiplicity of territories and governing bodies. Then there is development on unsuitable areas. Cities are growing, sprawling, and they develop on unsuitable areas. There is haphazard growth. Then the present planning system for the urban settlements has developed islands, and it is like growth centers. So therefore, these cities have developed as nodes, and the rest of the region sometimes remain undeveloped. Therefore, there is a need for a regional plan for a guided development of the region. Otherwise, there would be pockets of developed and large tracts of undeveloped areas. And there's also enormous pressure on the availability of land and infrastructure, and there is non-cohesive form or urban form or built form of the region. Continuing with the need of the regional plan, the land policies, the special pattern of the growth, land use zoning and development regulations are required to be modified, as an integration of economic activities is very essential for the balanced growth or guided growth of the region. And then also we require to plan for future expansion and growth of the city in reference to the growing population and economic base. Then there is also a need to develop adequate infrastructure to cater to the existing as well as future expansion needs, and then to achieve coordinated growth with the different sectors for bringing sustainable and holistic development of the region. Then the planning for the district as a region is the approach in which country as a whole can be covered, leaving no intermediate space. So district is actually an administrative unit in which the regional plan is the most or is the better option, and it's the most suitable option. So thus, for convenience of administration of regions and entire coverage of the country, the structure of regional planning is preferred to be done at the district level. Now coming to the scope of the regional plan. Now what does a region constitute? The region constitutes the urban areas, the rural settlements rather, then the peri-urban areas, that is where the city has sprawled, then the regional resources, the regional infrastructure. All these are parts of or components of the region. So therefore, the scope of the regional plan is to plan for all these areas. Plan for the urban settlements, plan for the rural settlements, plan for the peri-urban areas, plan for regional resources and regional infrastructure. Apart from that, there's also a regional policy and development strategy which needs to be drafted out. Then also one has to plan for the socio-economic development of the people of the region. Then there are various vulnerable areas and eco-sensitive areas of the region which needs to be protected and conserved. So the plan for these areas should also encompass protection and conservation of such areas, of such vulnerable and eco-sensitive areas. Then planning for the regional land use and the development controls. How do we regulate development in the region? So that also is within the purview of a regional plan. And lastly, about the money, the fiscal planning, the special context of the investments. There are a lot of investments taking up which we don't bother about the special context. We know only the number, but we don't know where would these investments come in, where should these investments come in. So therefore, the fiscal planning, the implementation strategies for the region, and also for land and resource mobilization, monitoring and its mechanism. So therefore, all this would come as a scope of the regional plan. Now coming to the process of the plan preparation, how do we prepare or how do we go about planning for the region? We have three regions as planning regions, like administrative regions, investment regions and special regions. Now as far as the administrative region is concerned, or the metropolitan region, that is the metropolitan region is identified, delineated, as per the first thing is that to define the metropolitan region. What is as per the legal provision? So as per the provision of the Constitutional Amendment Act, the metropolitan region is defined, delineated, and then planned for. So therefore, we see that some states in India have taken initiative to prepare the authorities as metropolitan planning committees, that is MPCs, as part of the Constitutional Amendment Act in order to plan for these areas. Now we come to the investment region. Now in investment regions, which are, for example, new investment manufacturing zones, industrial corridors, freight corridors, special investment regions, how do we plan for them? And also we have the special region, for example, eco-sensitive regions or environmentally vulnerable regions, the socioeconomic areas or socioeconomic regions, culturally sensitive regions. So in such regions, how do we plan for them? So therefore, there can be the investment regions as well as the special regions can either be inter-district or interstate regions, and they are based on, or they are worked out, or they are delineated based on the homogeneity, functional relationships, and administrative status. So specific provisions are formulated for them, for such regions, and efforts have been taken by some states for the investment regions and at national level for development of the corridor as a corridor region. So we have for example, the DMIC, the Delhi-Mumbai Freight Corridor. So that was an example of a investment region. And for special regions, eco-sensitive zones like recently notified Mount Abu eco-sensitive zones, they are part of the what we call as special regions. Then based on all the requirements of the region, the administrative setup is decided by the state or center. So we come to the components of the region. As we said earlier, that there is a regional network and terminals, you can see from this drawing. Then there is a built up area, urban and rural, urban settlements, rural settlements. Then there are natural reserves. Then there is agricultural land, that is land for production and economic activities. There are also industrial areas within the region which are set up. Then there is fallow land or unproductive land or wastelands. So these are the components of a region, and as I was stating earlier. Now what are the aspects of the regional plan? The policy in relation to the land use and allocation of land for different uses encompasses the roles and responsibilities of various stakeholders. It talks about should talk about housing and shelter development, protection of environmentally and ecologically sensitive areas and conservation of heritage, sustainable development of resources including agriculture and rural development. And the perspective plan should define the influence zone of the corridor or define the rationality of this selection if in case there are nodes. Then there is monitoring systems, social audit mechanisms to ensure the effective implementation of the plan. So let us learn about the indicators and parameters which are needed to identify or delineate a region for which the plan has to be prepared. Generally, a land suitability map is prepared for the region in order to know which lands are suitable for development and which lands are suitable for conservation or protection. Now, how do we go about and how do we do this land suitability analysis? So for this, we have to have maps, separate maps for various indicators. And what are these indicators? So we come to these indicators, that is soil cover and fertility. So we need to have maps on this we need to have soil fertility maps. Then the topography, so contours, we need to have the surface contours or the landform. Then the geology maps, then the geomorphology we require, then about lithology and drainage, this information we require, then about the surface water bodies, about the groundwater table, then the forest cover, then buffer areas, agricultural lands, intensity of production, whether it is a high productive agricultural land or a low productive, we require to know that. Then the hazardous zones and other environmentally sensitive areas. So as far as the environmental suitability is concerned, we require these parameters, and based on this we develop, based on the geographic information system with GIS based plan, we can identify and get the base information before we plan for any region. Then we also have to know about what is happening within the region in terms of the flows. For example, the goods movement, the volume of the goods which are moving within this, the goods volume of goods traffic, then the people's movement, the passenger traffic, then so traffic volume we require. Then we require to know the banking facilities, the infrastructure links, the supply and management of services such as water supply, wastewater, solid waste treatment with focus on recycling and reuse. Then about the drainage channels, irrigation channels, powerhouses, then location of institutes, movement of students, scholars, all this are required as in order to know the movement patterns and the functional flows within the region. Then we come to the demographic and the quality of life. Within the region we need to know about the population growth rate, because there are many urban settlements. There can be many urban settlements or of various sizes. There can be class 1 settlements, there can be class 2 settlements, and also there are rural settlements. So therefore, when we see these, we need to know there can be many rural settlements of different hierarchy. So therefore, we first have to know that what is the growth rate of these settlements and percentage increase in the population of these settlements. We have to know the percentage of urban population to total population, that is the urbanization rate in this area. Then about people migrating, so the migration information we need to have, number of persons migrating to where, from where. Then density, the population per hectare we need to know. The aspects of literacy and other socioeconomic aspects we need to know. We also need to have as base information about the large scale investment proposals which are planned for the development purposes in the region. Then the workers percentage, that is the non-agricultural workers, first the main workers and the marginal workers, then the non-agricultural workers and in terms of the percentage of non-agricultural workers to the total workers. Then about the land ownership, which is very important, that what is the ownership of the land, where can we develop. So if we don't know that, it is very difficult to make plans. And then also other aspects like about adjustment of boundaries, about the manageable size of the region from planning point of view, contiguity of areas, all this we need to know for in order to delineate the region. Now coming to the case studies. So the international case study is on Atlanta's regional plan. Now the Atlanta's regional plan is a long range blueprint that details the investments that will be made over the next 20 years to ensure the Metro Atlanta's future success and improve the region's quality of life. And the aim was to win the future, that was the slogan, by providing world-class infrastructure, building a competitive economy, and ensuring the region is comprised of healthy, livable communities. Now, what were the components? The components were the regional agenda, then the regional transportation plan, the policy framework, the community engagement documents, the transportation assessment, the regional resource plan, and the introduction to the Atlanta's regional plan. Now we come to the Greater Wellington regional plan. Now, generally, Greater Wellington regional plan is based on the premise that regional plans assist the regional council in carrying out its function under the Resource Management Act, which is to sustainably manage the physical and natural resources in the region. And thus, with this basic premise, the aspects which were covered were biodiversity, biosecurity, economic development, emergencies and hazard management, environmental science, flood protection, harbor management, land management, pollution management, then plans, policies and publications, proposed natural resources plan, then the pre-election report, annual plan, long-term plan, then regional plans, policies and strategies, transport policies and publications, and regional council policies. You can see from this drawing which shows the Greater Wellington Regional Plan. So now we come to the National Capital Region Plan, that is the regional plan for the NCT Delhi, which is encompassed by 3 states which are part of this regional plan, that is Haryana, Uttar Pradesh and Rajasthan. And we have districts like Panipat, Sonipat, Jhajjar, Gurgaon or Gurugram, Faridabad, Mewat, Palwal, Rewari, Rohtak as part of Haryana, and Bagpat, Meerut, Ghaziabad, Hapur, Bulandshahr and Gautam Budh Nagar as part of Uttar Pradesh, and Alwar as part of Rajasthan. Now what was the need of this National Capital Region Plan? What was the need? Now, because of unprecedented growth of NCT Delhi, it had recorded an extraordinary growth during 1941-51 after partition, with lakhs of immigrants coming to Delhi, and therefore and there was also an interim general plan for Greater Delhi 1956, and TCPO or TPO, that is Town Planning Organization, suggested that serious consideration should be given for a planned decentralization to outer areas and even outside the Delhi region. So you can see from this drawing or from these maps that how the city was or what was planned for the city as planned decentralization. Now, what were the objectives of this regional plan? It was first to promote growth and balanced development of the National Capital Region, to provide the suitable economic base for efficient and economic rail and road-based transportation networks, and to develop selected urban settlements with urban infrastructure facilities and a rational land use pattern. So this drawing shows how this whole or these objectives have been realized or have been proposed to be realized, which is the first one is to encourage the population to deflect, that as I said, as planned decentralization. So to encourage the population to deflect in the NCR towns, so therefore counter magnet towns had been proposed as part of the regional plan. And then number 2 was to increase the population holding capacity of the area within existing urban limits through redevelopment, and the third was extension of the present urban limits. So there were basically how to manage the growth, and that was what the National Capital Region Plan was all about. So we come to the plan, as you can see from the drawing, that there were, as I said earlier, there were counter magnet towns which was planned as counter magnet towns, city settlements were planned, and then satellite towns where higher order physical and social infrastructure was planned to be provided, and upgradation or improvement of the regional road, rail corridors were posed to be improved. And that's what, therefore, under this plan, various corridors, such as the various new corridors, then widening of existing corridors were planned. So students, today we have learnt about the regional plan, about the various scales, of the plans and at which level the plan is made, about the jurisdictions, about the acts, and about the definitions and nomenclature of the regional plan, then about the components, the processes, and about the issues and challenges, and also about the case studies, about the Atlanta plan, about the Greater Wellington plan, and about in India about the National Capital Region plan, which was the earlier plan. So regional plans are or form as a much broader or give a much broader framework under which master plans and other various plans like local area plans, layout plans, zonal plans, all these plans are made in order to guide the development, and that is the purpose of the regional plan, is to guide the development of the region. Otherwise the region would have haphazard development, then it would not be some areas would be developed, some areas would not be developed. As is the case in many cities and regions or beyond the cities in the regions today, and we also need to plan this plan the region, or we have to have a regional plan, because we want to protect also our environmentally sensitive areas, vulnerable areas, and we want to also regulate the development, and therefore we need the regional plan. So with this context, the regional plan is very essential and important, and therefore we have learnt about it today. Thank you.